if people start at 20.
All right, we'll rise for the pledge, please.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
DeCook.
Here, we have a quorum. I have one agenda deletion, that's number 4, remove public hearing for consideration of utility easement requested by the Central Iowa Power Co-op across property owned by Warren County and managed by the Warren County Conservation Board. Looks like we're not quite prepared to address that one tonight, so we will do so in one session. Are there any other agenda deletions or corrections?
On consent agenda item D, it's to use within 2 years.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay. Seeing none, we'll start on action item number 1, consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. A, claims. I have a claims figure of $1,747,708.59 with no fringes. B, minutes to approve November 2nd, 2021 regular meeting, November 9, 2021 special meeting, November 9, 2021 work session. C, approve abatement of mobile home taxes pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 435.25 on VIN number PC2205 in the amount of $148 plus all accrued interest. Number 2, VIN number 39A21515 in the amount of $72 plus all accrued interest. 3, VIN number IV 7014FFR 26907 in the amount of $75 plus all accrued interest. D, approve Kirk Baker, facilities coordinator, to use within 2 years his accumulated vacation time as of September 14, 2021. E, approve payroll removal, Travis Keeney, Deputy Sheriff, Sheriff's Office, effective November 10, 2021. F, approved employee new hire, Joni Shepard, Collections Assistant, Attorney's Office, effective November 17, 2021. G, approved Class C liquor license application for Skyview Vineyard and event venue. H, approve abatement of the remaining property taxes pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 445.16 on parcel number 27160271660 in the amount of $638 plus all accrued interest. And I approve new Warren County logo. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Discussion?
Sure. What do you got?
On item D, I'm not quite sure why this is on the consent agenda.
We talked about it in the closed session and then came out and we were going to put it on the agenda to approve.
I think that item could use a little more discussion. I'm not quite sure how many weeks of vacation he has each year. And, well, I am sure. And I'm just questioning if there should be some restrictions around that. I mean, he's got 12 weeks of vacation with this unapproved accumulation. And I'm just trying to figure out Can he take that all at one time?
He has agreed to allow, after the hiring of the new person, to go ahead and take it once that person is trained.
So he can't take 12 weeks of vacation all at one time?
No,
Besides he wants
no,
to.
he said the most that he wanted to take was 3 weeks.
In the whole-
I mean, we have to approve the vacation anyway, so. I do feel that he's a one-man department. When was he supposed to take vacation before?
Well, how's he gonna take 12 weeks next year?
Throughout the year
Yeah.
and the next year? Hopefully he can take a couple of weeks at a time.
Okay, I think there should be some, more discussion about the vacation, how much he's accumulated, and,
We did
what
talk
the
about how much,
restrictions are around that.
how much was accumulated.
How much was it then?
Let me look in my notes. Were you not there? Were you not paying attention in the
I
meeting?
got it at 12-minute course.
This is like a witch hunt you're going for our maintenance person.
I'd like to talk about it more, Crystal.
Well, that's fine, but we did talk about it in a closed session. And it seems like, you have a person in mind for that job. So why don't you just be honest and say that's who you really want in there?
Well, at this point, we did address this earlier. It is on the consent agenda for that reason. For that reason is that we had a consensus. It seemed as though we had a consensus. So we have a motion. I'll make a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
No.
DeCook?
Aye. Motion carries.
I
Number,
have that time for you if you want it after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
number 2 on our agenda is a public hearing for the approval of revised Chapter 1 Code of Ordinances, Warren County Code of Ordinances. This was to begin at 6:05. And then we are after that, so we're good. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening. I'm here with Chapter 1. It is the very last chapter that I'm bringing before the board to approve before I bring before the board in December codification. Chapter 1, called Code of Ordinances, provides details about how to cite an ordinance from the Warren County Code of Ordinances. It also explains the procedure for adopting ordinances and includes definitions of terms found throughout the ordinance. I would ask that the board consider approval of revised Chapter 1 Code of Ordinances for the Warren County Code of Ordinances and waive the second and third reading. We don't need a public hearing. Oh, we will need to go into public hearing, however, first. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Don. I'll make a motion to go to public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. We're in public hearing. Are there any questions for our county attorney regarding Chapter 1 changes? Are there any comments or questions from the public regarding Chapter 1 changes to the Iowa Code of Warren County Code of Ordinances, either in the room or online? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to exit public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye. I'll make a motion to adopt the revised Chapter 1 Code of Ordinances, Warren County Code of Ordinances, waiving second and third reading.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you all for all the work on the ordinances too. Was that the last one that we'll see for the year?
That's it for now.
Almost gonna miss them.
It's a big day.
This thing.
Thank you much. All right. I now have 6:09. We've got a public hearing at 6:10. Why don't we jump ahead? Tracy, are you ready for the canvass of the November 2021 city school election second tier?
Yes.
We'll jump to number 7.
You all got your copy in the packet, so, the City of Carlisle, the Carlisle Community School, I-35 School, Southeast Warren, with them having some voters that cross county lines. This is the second tier of canvas that we need to do, so I've presented all the numbers to you. And if you have any questions, holler. Otherwise, this is our final second.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the canvas election from November 2nd, 2021 city school election, the second tier.
Second?
Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Heater?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Tracy.
Darren, is your microphone?
Yeah, it's on.
All right, I've got 6:11, we'll jump back to number 3. I'll make a motion to go into public hearing regarding a rezoning application submitted by Mark Ogden, 14659 180th Avenue, Milo, Iowa, 50166, for land from A1 to C2. Good evening, Lindsay.
Hi, okay.
Second motion.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Heater?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, we're in public hearing. Good evening.
Okay, so this was tabled from a couple weeks ago. His son was here to present his case. I think Mark is here this evening. If you have some questions for him, I do know we have since, I'm gonna be honest, we since heard a similar case last evening in front of the zoning commission regarding a rezoning for internet car sales as well. The zoning commission did table that until their next meeting to kind of see what you were gonna do with this one. And my recommendation on this one was I'm just gonna put in conclusion, Mark called our office before purchasing this property because we had discussions about the license that he wanted to obtain through the state DOT and other businesses or others who wanted our office to sign these letters for the DOT, and they have to have C2 zoning or have to go through if they don't have C2 zoning, they have to go through the rezoning process. I talked to him about this parcel and the location and how it could be viewed as a spot zoning. He purchased the property anyway and wants to pursue the rezoning request. He operates he operated at that time a business in Des Moines for auto repair, and he stated he was retiring and wanted to slow down. Staff felt that there needed to be many questions answered regarding the plans and what he planned to do on this property. He stated it is for hobby, but still some side repairs. So I said restrictions, ? Zoning cannot sign DOT letter without C2 zoning, but is this the best location? ? We recommend hearing all evidence and know the applicant was cautioned about purchasing before approval. This is out on 180th. In my opinion, this was considered spot zoning. I know the property last night was questioned to be spot zoning, and this was not considered to be spot zoning, this one. So I know there's some differences. They were waiting to see kind of what you did with this one tonight before they proceeded as a commission on the other one. So this one was voted, this was the motion back in October from the zoning commission. Said hearing, oh no, let me get to that one. So this one was, they wanted to do, recommended, A1 to C2 with the restrictions. Let me get Kane, Hugh Kane put this in there. Those were, oh my goodness. Okay. Motion by Kane to recommend the rezoning of A1 to C2 to the Board of Supervisors, subject to 4 conditions. When the property is sold by the current owner, it reverts to A1. 2, no more than 8 cars to be publicly displayed, and they must be at least 160 feet from the road. 3, the business will be primarily internet sales, 50% or more. 4, no public signage, and that was seconded by Jim Meadows. Then the vote was 3 voted against that and 2 voted for it. So that motion came with you as a 3-2 denial for that motion. So this actually came with you as a denial for that motion from the zoning commission. So they were kind of waiting to see what you did with this one tonight before they act on theirs. But I think Mark is here tonight. I think he has some things he might want to add. I think he said he wasn't planning to do any repair there now, and I can kind of let him address that. And I think originally when he talked to me, that was kind of his plans, but I'll let him kind of address that for sure. So.
Thank you for the summation, Lindsay. Good evening. If you kindly state your name and your address.
Mark Ogden, 14659 180th Avenue, Milo.
Go ahead. Yeah. What would you like to tell us?
When I originally talked to Ms. Ballman, we were dealing on the house, and the people, they'd already bought a farm, so they were kind of put in a predicament. I either do it or I don't. And if you guys have watched Warren County property, especially acreage and farms, it's gone in 2 seconds. So we had to either do it or we'd lose out. We'd already lost out on another one, and we offered $10,000 more than they were asking, and still got beat out. So we weren't gonna mess around on this one because it met our criteria. It had to be a ranch, it had to have hardwood floors or laminate, and it had to have a big building and 2 acres or more. That was our retirement plan. You know, I would like to continue the building. I've got 3 buildings that are big enough to, nobody would even know what's going on. And when you drove by it, it's still gonna look like my neighbor's house 1/4 mile down the road. And, you know, like I say, all of our vehicles will be inside. I'm having the side of the building, which would be the south side of the building. There's room to park like 8 cars there, and that's where I believe he came with the 8 cars, and then my truck and motorhome on the back side of the building. Most all of our business, I'm gonna say 90% plus is all internet. I mean, the days of the drive-by customer, they're gone. Everybody, the World Wide Web's right in front of you. If you wanna look at something, if Target's got a TV on sale, no, I gotta check everybody else, boom, boom, you type in the TV, and that's the same thing people do with cars now. They do their shopping to save time. They can price Carl Chevrolet, Bob Brown Chevrolet in 2 minutes versus driving 30 miles to one place and then 20 miles to another place and to save $300. They can save the $300 on the internet. And that's basically what we will be doing there. My son, he does what's labeled as custom buying. If you're looking for a specific vehicle, you want an 09 Chevy Impala because you just hit a deer with yours. You want 140,000 miles or less. He searches everywhere to find that car. and then charges them a buyer's fee. And which is, like I say, basically all internet work. We can deliver the car anywhere in the country, but the people, according to the Iowa DOT, you have to sign the paperwork on location. You don't have to take delivery of the car on location, but you have to sign. So, I mean, and we normally sell anywhere from 5 on a good month, 12, 15 between us. And it's not gonna, like I told the commission, I said, if I was wanting drive-by business, I sure as heck wouldn't be wanting this, cause this is out in the middle of nowhere. And if I put a hot dog stand out there with 25-cent hot dogs, I don't think I'd sell anybody at the end of the day. So I'm not gonna recommend, I would never recommend anybody to think about drive-by business when you're out in the country and away from everything. I mean, that was our dream, and to move to the country. And
Will you take questions, sir?
yes, sir.
What, I saw that the zoning, group had some restrictions on it. What were your, and I think I heard from your son, but I didn't hear from you. What were your thoughts with the restrictions? Were they?
I'm 100%. Whatever. I'm at your beck and call. I will agree to whatever you want. I mean, I can't. It's like I told her. You tell me she didn't. I said. She says, "What are you gonna do about signage?" I said, "What do you want me to do?" She goes, "I don't like signs." I said, "You ain't gonna see a sign." I'm easy to get along with. I just wanna continue to be able to do something. You know.
And you no longer do the business in Des Moines, you are fully retired, correct?
Well, at the end of the month.
End of the month.
Yeah. I've got to
And I
I've got to
will-
turn my license in.
And I will
by-
say, Carrie and I did drive by last week and the property is very well kept.
The pictures I saw, and I get it, everyone's gonna take a best picture. I mean, I get it, I'd be the same. If I know I'm having company over, I'd probably clean the house a bit.
But
But
didn't really.
the pictures I saw looked very nice.
Right.
Yeah, he didn't know we were driving by and it was, yeah.
I keep my properties, that's my pride and joy. That's why I wanted more than 2 acres. I had 1.25 acres in Des Moines. But Des Moines wasn't sufficient for us for what we wanted for retirement. Cause I wanted a big building and we wanted ranch. We had a 2-story home in Des Moines. And
Lindsay, can you go through the proposed restrictions? I just wanna write them.
Yep.
I'm gonna go through them. Oh, there's a situation.
I think the restrictions also came from,
So it was tied to your own ownership of the property, reverting back to A1 upon selling or death.
that because she'd done that or you guys had done that with Scott McDonald.
Yeah, it was when the property is sold by the current owner, it reverted back to A1. No more than 8 cars be publicly displayed and they must be at least 160 feet from the road, cause that was back by that back building. Your back building was 160 feet off the road, I think you'd said, or I think we
No,
measured or something.
Katie.
Carrie,
Carrie went off,
Measured.
she measured from
yeah,
that's on the big building.
yeah.
She said it was like 180 feet, I think.
So the business will be primarily internet sales, so 50% or more of your
Well,
sales
it's
have to
gonna-
be internet,
it's
which you
gonna
were
be
saying more,
90% or above.
and no public signage.
Nope. I told her there'll be signs inside.
Yeah.
She said, I don't care about
Yeah.
that, I just don't wanna see them outside.
Yeah, and that was what, that was what he, and if that's what you would pass it as, and he would agree to it, we would just type up an agreement, have him sign it and notarize it, and,
What's your take? Because I assume, if I'm being honest, I think that an argument could be made for spot zoning pretty easy on this. I get that, and that's not something that the county wants to get into a habit of doing. I don't think that set a precedent of, hey, every time someone wants to do some spot zoning, the board just brings the board, and the board says fine. That said, I do like some of the restrictions on it. I guess if I was a neighbor, my concern would be I wouldn't wanna have a car lot next to me, and that certainly doesn't give me the feel for what is being proposed before us what's the, do you think that you'll be at 8 cars outside, or do you think most of those from the road are not gonna be visible? I mean, cause you've got buildings to house stuff.
Yes, I've got a 40 by 60 Morton building, a 21 by 26 Morton building, and I think it's 45 by 55 or 60 barn. So I mean, I've got enough. If she drove by this weekend, there's 10 cars out there right now.
You didn't
And-
have that many out there then?
Because you can't see them.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You see
yeah.
my 2 trucks, and that's all you see.
Mhm.
And that's typically, most of the time, what you're gonna see. I've got my truck and trailer, and then I've got my Suburban, and that's basically what you're gonna see. Because right now, the car market is so crazy. Cars I sold 2 years ago, retail, I can get more wholesale out of them now. I mean, it's absolutely flabbergasted what COVID has done to the car business. It's done it to all businesses, period, but, I mean, the car business is just, I haven't bought a car in 2 months. My son's bought, I think, 3 cars in the last 2 months. And, you know,
So no issues with the 8, I think that's gonna be the main concern. Do you think there'll be times when it'll be less than 8? I mean, your goal will be to put them in the garage if there's.
yeah, like I
space.
say, most of the time, you're not gonna see anything.
But,
I mean, you're gonna see, at the end of the month, I have to move all my stuff from my property that I sold in Des Moines. So my motorhome's gonna be parked back there. I mean, like I said, my truck and trailer and Suburban, but, you know, most of the time, the cars will be in the building.
the pictures I saw look very nice. My other question, and then I'll turn it over to anyone else, the board or the public, because we're in a public hearing. My second question, where I draw a little bit of a distinction between this matter and one that I think will come before this board in a month or so. Maybe come forward, I don't know. Are you within 2 miles of Milo? Because the way Norwalk, and I just met with Luke today, the way Norwalk, I mean, they have some ability to influence development within a 2-mile envelope of the city limits.
I
And
have
so there's sort of an additional check, if you will, where I think the county can still, it's county, so you can still do what you're gonna do. It's just it's one more check where if the city or, if Milo, if you were within 2 miles of Milo and Milo is saying.
He's not within
I'm
the
gonna,
urban
I'm gonna think I'm
expansion
about
area.
3.5, maybe 4 miles.
Yeah, he's not within the urban expansion area.
It takes me about 4 minutes to get to Milo from my house. 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay. That was my other distinction between, this matter and what I think might be coming before us at a later date. It's my understanding that other, R57, R57, I think is within the 2 miles of Norwalk. I think Norwalk's also weighed in on that, so, that answers my question. Does the board have some questions for Mr.
Yes.
Arnold?
So your hands are basically tied. If you want to continue doing the internet business,
Yes.
in order to have your license, you have to have the C2 zoning.
I have to have you guys sign off. And,
Okay.
and that's what the DOT requires. It's like, well, the previous owner of the house, he's operated a repair facility for tractors and diesel trucks and stuff for the last 20 years. And he's like, well, you don't have to do nothing because they're all over the county. I said, I'm different than you. I'm licensed by the state of Iowa, and state of Iowa requires whatever township, county in this deal has to sign off to agree to it. Otherwise, the DOT says, no go. And so if it doesn't meet the DOT's requirements, which I've already talked to them, and they said, you gotta get it done here, and there will be no problem with them. But if I don't do it, then I can't go to the auctions to buy the cars. I have fleet insurance on all my vehicles, instead of where you have insurance on your car, your daughter or son has their insurance. My insurance covers no matter if I've got 2 cars or 100 cars. But, so that's another beneficial thing for us.
So you say that about 90%, what kind of business do you do 10% of the time?
Referrals,
Oh, outside of the internet?
Yeah.
Just people, okay.
like if I sold you a car 5 years ago and My kid just sold one yesterday, or the day before yesterday. Or no, it was yesterday. Sold it to a lady. He sold her a Malibu like 4 years ago. Still running. She calls. She says, "I'm only gonna buy from you." So he came and, or she came out there and she bought the car.
How about repairs of those cars?
I've got 2 mechanics in Des Moines that have worked for me for 20 years. They're doing their own gig up there, so they will be doing any. I mean, I'll do oil changes on our vehicles, stuff. I mean, just minor stuff, light bulbs, you know, clean up, this and that. All the major stuff will either go to Sheldon Roney at Roney Auto Repair or Colin Auto Repair.
Okay, thank you.
Just for a point of clarification, the repairs would be on vehicles that you intend to sell, not neighbors or other people
No.
coming to, I
No.
need an oil change in my truck, so I'm gonna
Well,
go down there and do it.
In the beginning, you know, she asked me the same question, and I said, you know, because brakes are very minor work. I mean, I can do a brake job in 30 minutes. But, you know, if my mom wanted it done, my sister wanted it done, something like that, and she says, well, what if I wanted it done? Well, being the nice guy.
That's a trick question.
Yeah, being the nice guy, I said, well, I said, yeah, I guess I would do it for you, you know? I'm at her beck and call.
There's no
so
right answer to that.
I'm not gonna say, no, I'm not gonna do your work. And then I'm like, that was the wrong answer, I figured. If I said no, she's like, get out of my
I
office.
shouldn't have said what if I wanted done, right? I should have said what if somebody came, you know, what if somebody off the street came in, I should have.
Well,
said
I'm not
that.
gonna get nobody off the street, you know that.
Alright,
You have to
Yeah,
know,
after I drove by it, nobody just off the street.
you know,
Yeah.
you gotta know where you're going to find mine.
Yeah.
Or you gotta live around Milo, because
Yeah,
that's the shortcut to bypass Milo. And
yeah,
I figured when we bought the house, boom, I ain't gonna see nobody, cause there's only 6 houses or 7 houses on the whole street. There's 100 cars a day go by there, because everybody knows it's a shortcut from S-23 to whatever the one at Quabi exit road is, and they don't have to go through Milo, they can just cut straight through, and I was like, wow.
Darren, any questions?
Just one quick one.
Yes.
You're in the internet car business now, so your
Yeah.
website's up and running and you're.
No, basically, all of the internet stuff is done off like Marketplace, and where
Like through Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook Marketplace through,
Oh, so you don't even have to have a website
You-
to be in
no.
the internet car business?
no, you can jump on Facebook Marketplace and type in Carl Chevrolet, and it'll bring up
Okay.
100 ads from them, or,
Wow.
you know, Bob Brown GMC, boom, it'll start listing everything from them. I mean, Facebook Marketplace has taken over for just about everybody. Heck, there's Walmart ads on there, there's everybody's ads on there, and it's free. So if I don't have to pay somebody to maintain, we did have our own, but if I can do it for free, you do what you can do your best. And we get more, we've probably gotten more action off the Facebook Marketplace than anything that we've ever advertised on. I mean, it's crazy on how many people are on that day in, day out. My son can post a car, and within 3 minutes, he's getting emails. And, when can I come? You know, this, that, and everything else. I mean, where before, we might post an ad and not get nothing for 3 days.
Okay.
Anything else you want us to know, Mark? Otherwise, we're gonna open it up to the public, if there's anyone from the public that has questions too.
I'm open to any suggestions you guys have, and whatever you would like, I will conform with.
Awesome. Is there anyone from the public or online or neighbors or anyone who would like to voice an opinion regarding the request for rezoning? If you would, please step forward, state your name and your address.
Sean Westrom from 4248 R57 Highway. Mark and I kind of share common interest on that, and I guess I just wanted to plead the case with the DOT. Unfortunately, the big thing with us sharing the internet sales thing is we're dealing off of rules from the 80s where both the DOT and the zoning lead us to here basically, and it's a one-size-fits-all license. There's no way for us to go about changing that or anything besides basically having you guys help put limitations on us, and in fact, the limitations, I believe, help us in that case. So just kind of wanted to plead the case there that we share that same conundrum there, that we're both stuck here with that. The internet is an up-and-coming thing. That's basically how all the car sales are done and whatnot. Obviously, I'm not here to talk about my case, but that'll be coming up, and it does share some stuff, and I wanted to urge that is. A lot of self-employed people that are running their operations off of A1s just don't have to get the zoning that we do, but they do something similar or causes more traffic than what Mark or I would necessarily be causing. I just want you guys to keep that in mind, I suppose. Because again, just because we're a car dealer does not mean it's gonna be a heavy traffic business. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Good evening, Kate. How are you?
Yeah, good evening. Kate Baldwin, 4250 R57 Highway, Norwalk. My statements are brief. I understand that we also want to promote business in Warren County and in the state of Iowa. I'm not here to object with that. I also understand that the internet does create new challenges for both entrepreneurs as well as zoning officials. I will say though that right now the code just doesn't provide for that. Commercial is commercial is commercial. Once you offer that commercial zoning, there's no restriction. It'll just be limited to internet sales. There's been discussions about how you can perimeter that, how you can guard against that. I'm not into policing neighbors. I think rural areas that have been established as residential areas need to stay exactly that. The city of Warren, of Norwalk, as well as Indianola, Carlisle, other cities within the jurisdiction of Warren County offer commercial opportunities. And I continue to say that we need to support those, we need to support zoning, we need to keep commercial within commercial areas that are designed for that. So that's where I'm at this as a resident of Warren County. Thank you for my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone online or anyone else who would like to weigh in? This is your opportunity to be heard. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to exit public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Okay. Lindsay, any final concluding thoughts?
I don't think so. Just, you know, again, our ordinance is from 1980. Obviously, it didn't, you know, it doesn't address internet car sales. You know, my hands are tied when it comes to them asking for us to sign stuff from the DOT that, you know, they ask us to sign something from the DOT that says their zoning, you know, it is in compliance, and we ask for a C2 zoning for this. So I foresee, and that was the discussion last night, I do foresee more of these probably coming our way with the change of COVID and the way business is conducted today. It's just, that's kind of the wave of the future probably. So, you know, I don't know what answer's right or wrong. It's just, I think we're probably gonna see more of it coming this way, you know, and so whether we do them and try to restrict them, that's kind of, I think, where we're at with trying to decide what the right way to handle these are for now. I know it would, like last night it was mentioned, it would be nice if the state would address it in the legislature with some, you know, with some legislation to back up their permitting of these, or, you know, with some legislation for some stuff to back some of this up, but that's obviously not there, and so we've kind of just got to deal with it on a local level, and so That would be my only comments right now, so.
Okay, thank you. Discussion from the board.
Well, I'm completely for people who have land being able to do what they want on their land and not obstructing their neighbors, not disturbing them. I think the restrictions are gonna speak loudly, and I hope that the legislation does come back with something soon, because I do, just like Lindsay, I think this is gonna be a wave of the future. So, and I certainly don't want to restrict someone from their livelihood. You know, yours, if there is spot zoning, yours definitely meets that criteria. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Iowa DOT requires us to sign off on that, and it being a C2, I couldn't agree to this. But if you'll agree to these restrictions, then certainly I could say yes.
Supervisor Eder? I just, very much agree with you, Supervisor McIntyre. I want everybody, you know, to have their land and their dream and to do with, you know, mostly what they wanna do in their lives on their land. The hesitation I have is that, or I had prior to this meeting, was that you bought a piece of land under a certain zoning, not contingent on the zoning changing or.
No.
But in your explanation, you really, the way property is bought and sold these days, you really just don't have a lot of time to get all your ducks in a row.
It's either
So,
do it or don't,
yeah,
because somebody
yeah,
else is
sign
on the
it
line
or-
that's gonna do it.
I've been in that situation as well, so.
Especially in Warren County,
Yeah.
it can be sold in minutes, just like the one down the road here that we offered 10,000 over.
Yeah.
Within 3 hours of being
Yeah.
listed, and it was already sold.
Yeah, so,
We went and looked at it, our realtor seen it when it first came up, she says, let's go. We went through it, we'll take it. And she goes, it's gonna take full price or more. I said, how much more? She says, I'd go 10,000, you'll get it. I said, do it. They were asking $349.9, we did $360,000. And lost it in 3 hours from the time it was posted. But the realtor who listed it is when I sold it. So she'd already had somebody in mind for it. And that's when we seen this, it's like, it meets everything we want. It needs a lot of work. I mean, we're putting new windows in, this and that, new HVAC, but it's like, do you wanna keep looking? My wife says, no, buy it. I said, okay.
And I don't have a map in here with additional neighbors.
Oh.
How close are neighbors to you?
Eighth of a mile to the south, eighth of a mile, a little over probably that, and I would say a quarter mile to the north.
Gotcha. I mean, it's pretty rural there.
And then,
I've been there.
other than that, I mean, since they were clearing the home this morning, I'm trying to see some new houses that I hadn't seen.
Sure.
Then, I mean, they are far off in the distance, but
Here's his property and there's their.
So here are my thoughts. I'm always happy to be, I'll just tell you what's on my mind. That way there's no guessing, you just hear it. Each one of these, and I agree that I think we need to do an ordinance rewrite. I think that we should be uniform, that's my preference. Each one of these are going to be, taken on the merits of their own case. And so I'm not going to conflate this with, others. Things that were telling to me, on this, I haven't heard from any neighbors. I haven't heard from anyone in the Milo area that is up in arms about this. I don't have a petition before me with 15 signatures of neighbors saying, not in a million years do I want this. I did not drive by it myself, but I trust that Crystal and Lindsay have, and that they said that it's not noticeable that there's an internet car sales place there. I think that's important. I did look at the pictures. I thought the pictures look very nice. I mean, there's there's a wide spectrum of properties in this county. There's some super fancy, super nice, high-end stuff, and then there's some places that, you know, environmental health is after. I mean, and a whole gamut in between. You're certainly not on that end of the spectrum. You seem like you're able to stay within the parameters. I mean, I think that the potential rub is the spot zoning, I get that. And then also neighbors not wanting to have commercial in the area. I'd like to see the restrictions changed, or tweaked in that agreement to reflect, disposition of the property. So sold, gifted, inherited. I'm not sure that it's said that, I think it just said sold. But if
Yeah, it
wants
just
to-
says
Probably it's sold.
when the property's sold.
that it reverts back to its original A1, that's fine, yeah.
Now, since we purchased the property, my wife's passed away. But my lawyer's gonna do a will and probably put the house in a trust. Would that
Yeah,
affect us at all?
I'll take it back, I'm fine with it.
I mean, no, I mean.
I mean, it's theoretic. I just- I don't-
If I take it from my name to a trust, will I have to turn around and come right back to
You're not,
you?
you're not selling it, I'm fine with it.
Thank you.
I don't need it. I mean, the intention though is when you are done doing internet and car sales, it reverts back to A1.
Yeah. I have no problems whatsoever with that.
Okay. And with that, and again, just so that planning and zoning hears me very clearly, I'm looking at each of these on an individual basis. And one, there's a really, it is very meaningful to me that I have not heard from neighbors in Milo, up in arms about what you are proposing in the rezoning. You are also not within 2 miles of Milo's planned expansion, where the city of Milo would have a voice in what goes on there. Maybe not the definitive voice, but a voice nonetheless. So I've not heard that.
It's very rural out there. Like I said, our
It is.
neighbors, you don't.
And due to the
We
rural,
wait when they drive by.
and due to the ruralness, I also, it's more credible and believable that you're not going to have 8 cars parked out front every day looking for some passerby, to purchase a car. It's just not, keep it nice. If you're willing to do that, I'm fine with doing it. Although it's still not my favorite, and I still don't like spot zoning. So those are my thoughts. With that, do we have a motion?
Okay. Dawn, you tell me if this is for that first restriction. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the rezoning application submitted by Mark Ogden at 14659 180th Avenue, Milo, Iowa, for land from A1 to C2 with the following 4 restrictions. Number 1, when the property is sold or management of business changes, okay,
Restriction.
by the current owner, it reverts to A1. Number 2, no more than 8 cars to be publicly displayed, and they must be at least 160 feet from the road. Number 3, the business will be primarily internet sales, 50% or more. And number 4, no public signage. And
Do you wanna waive the
waive
third reading?
the third reading, please.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, roll call.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye, motion carries. I assume that Lindsay and Mark can get an agreement put together and signed, and thank you for.
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
You can work with Lindsay to get that agreement signed and.
Okay, thank you guys very much. Have a good evening.
we deleted 4. Number 5 is another public hearing. This one is regarding review of final plat 2 for Vista Ridge submitted by Land Holding LLC, 12119 Stratford Drive, Suite B, Clive, Iowa, 50325. And this one's also.
Second. Did you make a motion? I'm sorry.
Yep, motion to go into public hearing in a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Heater.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We're in public hearing.
So this was tabled from the last meeting, and they were doing some paving work out at the site on R57. We had some correspondence. David was gonna go out and do final. He did that last week, but there was a few things that he would like to see completed. But there was some correspondence with Brad Cooper today, and David's response was he would recommend having one more hearing before approval. They didn't have edge of pavement backfilled last time we checked, and I'm not as concerned about the topsoils. It's more final grade work. But we've since talked to David today, and I asked if he wanted us to reach out to Brad, and he said yes. So we reached out to Brad, and he says we're out there this week spreading topsoil. We should have it done by the end of the week. Soil Tech is going to be out next week to seed. And Brad said this is what the contractor said. David says, thanks for the update. We last looked on 11/9 when you sent the email to review progress. We are fine with approval if they're working on the topsoil spread this week. Great, thanks, Brad says. So I asked David tonight, I think we're ready to go on this. He says yes. So this would be, this is the second reading, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So we are, if you do approve this, this would be waiving the third reading on the final plat for Vista Ridge, so we would be ready to start the recording process for that. So I don't know if there's any public hearing. I know David is here if you have questions for him. Unless you have questions for me first.
David, anything to add?
I can just reiterate what Lindsay just said. We were on a deck pour today, so it was hard to hear over the phone. I think they just prematurely sent our office out there to look at it on November 9th. They still had some items to complete, but I think with some of the nicer weather, I know they got that done. I have a lot of confidence they got that done because they've been very easy to deal with, but on November 9th, they just still had some ditch grading to perform. There's a lot of topsoil out there. I know they're permitted through the Iowa DNR. Anytime we disturb more than an acre, we do the same thing. So I'm not as concerned about the seeding and topsoil spread, because if they don't do that appropriately, then they're in violation of that permit.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Brad Cooper, with Cooper Crawford Associates here on behalf of the development. I drove through there tonight and they're basically all done. So the final cul-de-sac they're actually working on it right now as I came here. So it looks really nice to me. I think it's gonna be a great addition to the county. Once we get it filed, we still have warmer water to put in, and we're also gonna install some street lights out there. So it should be really nice.
Thank you. All right, we are in public hearing. Is there anyone from the public or online who would like to make a comment or ask questions? Brad, was it touching pavement originally? I don't remember.
It comes off of R57. Yep.
And the interior.
There's 4 of the lots that actually have shared drives that come off the highway that are rock drives, but all the internal lots that we're talking about tonight in Plat 2 are all paved.
Yep. Good. preference. I like the interior paving or asphalt. I think it makes it stand up to the test of time better than gravel. Last call from the public or online. Vista Ridge 2. Plat 2. Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to exit public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat 2 for Vista Ridge submitted by Land Holding LLC, 12119 Stratford Drive, Suite B, Clive, Iowa, 50325, and waive the third reading.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Motion carries. Number 6 on the agenda is issue with water runoff with citizens of Greenfield Plaza with possible action. Good evening, Skip.
Good evening, Skip Phelps, 1341 Bronx Street. And I'm not Bob Feenstra, even though he was going to present. And Aaron, it's a very short agenda.
All right.
I thought you would like that. What we're looking at is Bob Veenstra is designing this issue. We have an area between Clover Hill Drive and Warren Drive that is a watershed to the backyards between Warren Drive and Crestview. There's basically 3 streets: Clover Hill Drive, Crestview, Warren Drive. And that's the only area we're really working with. There's about 20 acres that's a watershed into those backyards. Hardly read my writing. What we're looking for is we're going to do a line. Right now it's flooding. It's inadequate for the lines to take the water away without flooding the basements. And to help with that, I do have pictures there. And there's one for each of the supervisors. This is a situation that's been going on for about 50 years since the entire area was developed. And it's, according to all of the plats, the water runoff is the supervisor's responsibility. And of course, it's been going on for 50 years. The sanitary sewer district is becoming involved with this particular issue because this backyard, as you can see, is flooding relatively deep. What that's causing is a lot of extra water running into the sanitary sewer. They pay for treatment by the cubic yard or cubic foot. So their bills with the WRA are just becoming astronomical. And they're trying to address a number of issues to get this water infiltration down. And what we're doing is, this is kind of like a first step of a partnership between the neighborhood association, the sewer board, and the Warren County supervisors so that we can get these problems solved. What we want to do is we want to put in, starting in a way at Warren Drive, going through the backyards alongside of an existing line. And it'll be a roughly 30-inch pipe, and that way we're using the same easements. And then that pipe will just kind of wiggle all its way down to Clover Hill Drive, where there's a 36 or 42-inch pipe under Clover Hill Drive, and then it daylights. So, and the reason we're starting at Warren Drive is so that once we get this problem resolved in the backyard, we aren't gonna be tearing it up again. And if we need to get additional drainage up in that area, we can hook on at the storm sewer inlets on Warren Drive. We are using the same easements. Veenstra Kim is doing the engineering on this, and the sewer district has been paying for that. What we're hoping is that Warren County could then do the work, so that we have kind of a partnership. It worked that way fairly well with a couple of storm sewer inlets on Clover Hill Drive, where Warren County Engineering was able to just kind of take care of it with their own people, and that kept our budget down fairly low. And that's essentially what we're hoping to do with this one. And I don't know if this area is going to get worse because of earth warming, or as more driveways are paved and more garages are built. But right now, it's several feet deep, and it is going into the walkout basement areas of the houses along, as you can see. I mean, if you'd like her, and we could call it to Cook Lake. Or kind of like we had Yorty Creek. Just kidding. Anyway, we're hoping that we can develop a partnership to get that taken care of. Any questions?
What's the proposed length of the 30-inch pipe? How long? Do you know? What's the distance?
Do you know the length? I can take a guess that it is 1, 2, 3, probably 4 blocks. And one block is usually 300 feet, so that would make it 1,200 feet.
And have you been in contact with our engineer about, or are there any cost estimates?
I don't know about Veenstra. I think has talked to the engineer, but I don't know absolutely for sure.
He's here.
Oh, terrific.
I can say we're aware of it, but I guess thus far I've just seen, I think it was a report, but our office hasn't seen drawings or an estimate like you mentioned. So I know we did a repair up there, I think it was in the spring, I believe. I mean, it didn't solve it, we had to fix something that was broken. But we did try and televise some of the lines and do some dye testing. I think you guys did the same thing, so. We were doing some exploratory work. It just gets tough because we'll hit a 90-degree bend and then the camera can't go any farther, so it's really tough to tell what's out there. But I guess to be continued, it's something we would like to review and see the drainage calculations on. Okay.
And Bob, Veenstra's group, Veenstra Kim, had done a dye test where they injected dye at both Warren Drive and the backyards where the lake is, and found that it was coming out at the Clover Hill area where the pipe goes under the Clover Hill Drive.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I think get those documents to the engineer, and so we have a better picture of what we're
Right.
dealing with, so.
I'll share my thoughts. I'll start with this premise. One, I'm not saying this might sound, I know that I'm probably not the most popular person in Greenville Plaza from time to time, but, it's my earnest intention, if there's something that we can do collaboratively together, I will absolutely hear it out. I'd like to know what the cost might be. I'd like to find out what's feasible and to try to make it better if we can. That's my sincere preference. I won't concede without our legal team saying that stormwater and sewer and everything falls upon the county. I
The
don't-
sewer does not, the sanitary.
I know the sanitary sewer doesn't, and I think that historically, part of the problem has been that there's been a difference of opinion between the homeowners in the plaza area and prior boards on whose responsibility is what. And I think it is at least arguably gray. Because of that, not a whole lot of action has happened there. Because from the board's perspective, or a prior board's perspective, they're looking at how do we put resources into an area of the county where it might be our responsibility, or it might be the homeowner's responsibility, where you're using taxpayer resources from folks in Milo and Lacona and Carlisle and Norwalk and everywhere else, on something that's maybe not so ironclad. So I don't know that that's been settled, but if there's some definitive proof one way or the other, and our county attorney wants to provide an opinion on it too, I think that'd be helpful. But regardless of however that shakes out, I still would be interested in seeing if we can do something with you regarding that pipe and drainage. You might have just hit a lucky time period, because the county does have some ARPA funds for infrastructure. And that makes the county a bit more flush than we usually are, where, the standard response is, well, we would like to do this, but we lack the funds to do this. And so it's a question of, do we raise taxes to do this or not? Here, we might actually have some ARPA funds that could help. And if that is a allowable purpose, I think that would be a good way to look at some resources. Now, do I want to spend 50% of the ARPA funds on this project? No, I do not. So I'd like to find out what it costs. So if you want to work, or Veenstra and Kim wants to work with David, I would happily have David assist with that. I'd like to figure out sort of what the estimated cost would be. I would like to hear from our county attorneys regarding their actual opinion, if that's ever been settled. Because I don't know. It's easy to say, well, yeah, it's your responsibility. I get that. It's a position I would want to be in if I was in need of county resources too. But I'd like to hear that as well. But regardless of however that shakes out, I'll genuinely work with you guys, and because I think it'd be a good opportunity to make some improvements there, using some federal dollars for infrastructure. Sure looks like infrastructure to me.
That is. And I think there's other people that
Sure.
wanted to speak.
Yep, it's public, we're in public hearing, we will limit time to 3 minutes though. So just state your name, your address, and we'll hear you out.
Good evening. My name is Connie Christie. I live at 8045 Crestview Drive. The pictures that Mr. Phillips gave you is my backyard. Now, I heard you guys speaking before about people having dreams. I have a dream that I don't want a wet basement anymore. Plain and simple. It's really hard to be able to do anything in my basement, not knowing when we're gonna get the rain that's gonna flood my basement. And I've never been to one of these meetings, so I've never met any of you. But I'm really curious, Mr. Dickock, why you don't like Greenfield Plaza.
I didn't say that.
You have a problem with Greenfield Plaza though?
I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I
Well,
never said that.
I pay my taxes and I pay them on time. And I don't feel like anything gets done out in Greenfield Plaza, and I wanna know why. Why isn't any of our property taxes going to fix the problems that we have out there in Greenfield Plaza? I don't understand that. Make me understand that.
I can shed some light on that. I've been on the board, and Greenfield Plaza has been always on our agenda. Always something that we know that it's part of the rural community. But as far as the county is set up, it's not made, the taxes that we collect are not enough to pay for sidewalks and street cleaning but yet we continue to do that. But it is a drain on our budget. However, in looking at your stormwater, it is over $30 million for the entire neighborhood to get addressed. That is our entire county budget. So we'd like to tackle it a little at a time, which is what our engineer has been doing. Every year he has on his budget to have a study done, but something else does come up and that gets taken off. So,
And that leaves us where?
but the study itself is over $300,000. I mean, there's only so much that we can, I mean, what would we do with the study once we had it, telling us it's $28 to $30 million? You know, there are federal funds. I know that our county attorney has talked to your homeowners association about becoming your own government entity so that you can apply for those funds. And you guys could use that and put it towards what you need.
Does our property taxes get put in an area to themselves to fix stuff? Or does it go to Indianola, Carlisle, Milo, Norwalk?
Okay. Your Greenfield Plaza and Hills of Coventry are about 600 to 800 homes within that area. And all together, over the last couple of years, I think it was about 3 years ago, I asked how much is collected. And it's about $150,000. That barely covers your snow removal in the winter. So you are drawing upon the other residents within Warren County to take care of your sinkholes, to take care of your road repairs and your sidewalks and your curbs. I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, do their stuff get fixed?
Well, they don't have sidewalks and curbs, and they have gravel roads. That's the.
We don't have sidewalks all the way. I don't know if you want to see this. I've got a video of a different time that I got flooded out. I don't know if you want to see it or not.
I'm not saying that we're heartless and cold, it's just I'm saying, where is the money gonna come from? We know the problem. We want to address the problem, and we have been addressing the problem. But we can only do so much with what we have. So there could be other avenues that your homeowners association can take so that.
Why is it left up to us? Why are we made to feel like we're the black sheep? Why
What
is
don't
that
you
happening? I
understand
don't
about that
understand.
We don't have the money to take care of the concerns.
Is that what people in Carlisle and Norwalk get told too? We don't have the money?
They have a city council and a mayor that address their issues. As a county government, we are not set up to handle this kind of issue.
Yeah, we're a little over 3, but I'll summarize it with this. There's, I'm not heartless either, and I don't know where you heard that. I didn't say that. I said I'm not probably the most popular person in the plaza. That doesn't
Oh,
mean
okay.
that I
I'm
don't
sorry.
like them.
I misunderstood
I like
what
lots
you
of people
said.
there.
Okay.
I'm friends with a lot of people there. I like it, and I want to genuinely do some good there, which is why I offered to work with our engineer and just look at some ARPA funds, because maybe there's something we can do there if in the event that it's somewhat reasonable. I would advocate for that. That is within District 1. I think that it's probably a good opportunity to take a look at it. But in my 3 years here, what people don't understand is that there is a difference between an incorporated city and an unincorporated county. And the level of services are different between them, but so are the taxes. So I live in Norwalk, and because I live in Norwalk, I pay for curb and gutter, I pay for a police force, I pay for a fire department, I pay for city council, I pay for city amenities. And it looks like a town, and I pay taxes like a town. Greenfield Plaza looks like a town, but they don't pay taxes like a town. And therein lies some of the disconnect on why is this not like Norwalk? Because Norwalk's a taxing entity. Carlisle's a taxing entity. They can bond. They can run a 10-year debt levy. They can use grants and federal funds that they receive because they are in fact a city, a town. Milo is too. If Diane has a project and their city council determines that there's not decent enough water pressure, they need to build a new fancy water tower, it's $200,000, and they look around and they say, well, we don't have it. Well, then they start looking at financing mechanisms. Maybe they bond for it. Maybe they apply for a grant for it. Maybe they raise their taxes on their citizens for it. But because the plaza is unincorporated, we receive a percentage of your tax bill. The other part of your tax bill goes to the
Des Moines Public Schools.
I have no control over what
I
they do with your
understand that.
taxes. So we see about 20-25% of your tax bill. When you add it all up, just the honest to goodness numbers are, it pays for snow removal, it pays for a few things, and then beyond that, those numbers. So let's say Crystal's a little light and it's $250,000 or $300,000 of county contribution of the Greenfield tax pie. That goes back in, we probably spend $400,000 minimum on engineering budget. And that's without looking at millions of dollars of projects. So her question, she wasn't trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to be mean to you. The question is, where do you come up with the funds? And when the numbers are big enough, that's why the can has been kicked down the road in the plaza for 20 years. There's no funding mechanism without looking at other people and saying, you didn't choose to live here, but you now need to pay for this. And that has not served your area very well historically, and
Well,
it's
when
created some tension.
When I moved into that house, I did not have the pond in my backyard like it is now because it's gradually gotten worse. I not only have the grate, which is falling apart, by the way, I also have a sewer drop in the northeast corner of my lot also. So I have both of those in my backyard. And with that water being like that, it's not a good thing.
I get it. So when I said that I meant that. I don't beat around the bush. I be honest with people, regardless of what they think. I really do. We will take a look at it. I will have David get some numbers together with the engineer on this, because I genuinely want to know what 4 blocks of pipe looks like. I want to have a number to consider, because you really did hit a pretty sweet spot in time where we have some infrastructure dollars to use because of COVID, and we are looking for some reasonable ways to use it. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's not my heart's desire to use some of that money for things that have a real payback. I do. I'd like to have an industrial park in this county. I'd like to have another couple, $50, $100 million of valuation by having, running some infrastructure to an industrial park, because that has a big payback for everybody, and it lowers everybody's taxes.
I understand.
But I will absolutely look at it, and I will have David be receptive to a meeting. Skip can be there. If you want me to be there, I'll come to it too. I honestly want to do something. If we can help, I want to at least consider it. So you're not hearing a no from me.
Okay, I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carmen. Good evening, sir.
My name's Tom Akers, and I know you, Christie, the cook. I never did meet you, but you're Darren?
Yep.
Okay. I've lived in Greenfield Plaza for 58 years. Her backyard used to be my backyard, back to back. I lived there for 10 years, and one time it rained, my basement flooded, and my sewer backed up, feces coming in my drain, etc. That's a health problem. Everybody in that area getting feces in their backyard. That is a health problem. So some of this grant funds that you guys can get could go there, just for health reasons. But let me say this. In my abstract, from 8042 Warren Drive, where I lived in back here, and also in my abstract at 129 Martin Parkway, it reads that John Aller, that built that project there, was responsible for storm sewers for 5 years. Bob Sandys was, I think, was an engineer at that time, Warren County engineer, and he signed off after 5 years, and all the supervisors also signed off, taking the responsibility of all the roads and all the sewers. Now that's written in my abstract, and if you'd like to go to work for us and be a little bit more popular at Greenfield Plaza, sit down and read this part of my abstract. It says that Warren County is responsible for the storm sewers and its paving, and they accept the responsibility. If that says that in my abstract, and I bought that house, why is it Warren County? Now, when I first moved here, my taxes were $120 a month. My house payments was $120 a month. That included my taxes. That was 55 years ago. Today, it's a whole lot more. But anyhow, but in 65 years, or 55 years, Warren County has done nothing. But they accept the responsibilities back then. So, Cook, if you take the time to read that part of the abstract, I can meet up with you. I'll bring Skip. He puts a lot of time into this. Read that abstract and tell me, do we have a legal right to ask the county to fix this? Because I think if you read it, you'll see it said, and it also says, at no cost to the homeowner. That says that right in the abstract. So if we got some COVID money, this helps out. This would be a good time, and you would become more popular in Greenville Plaza. Thank you for a
Sir,
smile.
I don't do this job for popularity.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, it's there in the abstract, but it's in there.
I meant it too. I would really like,
You have read that?
no, I said I would really like to have, I said I meant it, I would really like to
Okay.
have our county attorney review some of those things and have an actual legal opinion that we can base something off of.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If you have something, I'd love it. I'd love it to be shared with the county attorney's office. I'd like to have a legal opinion that would help form a
Okay.
better basis.
Could I bring it to you and have you look at it, and we go to the county attorney, and I'll bring Skip along, and I'll bring the abstract. What, can we set a time?
Yeah, when would you like to, sir?
Tomorrow. Let's go to work today. Let's go to work right now, and set time up for tomorrow, and I'll bring it. I got the abstract home, I can bring it and show it to you.
Why don't you be at the board office at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning? I'll see you.
9 o'clock?
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
I just want to mention one thing. You mentioned that you guys would have to do this study. I have to tell you that we in the sanitary district that's in our budget. We're paying for that. That's already being paid for.
Really? Okay, well,
That's what we
that's
hired
great.
Bob Bigster to do.
Okay.
He's our representative. He was gonna be here tonight. Something happened. He didn't make it. We've got everything laid out. We've reviewed the whole situation, from walking it on foot and taking pictures to Bob and us reporting back and forth what we found, and he's done the work.
Excellent.
So they have it all in the office out there. So
Okay.
that's being paid for. We're paying
Wonderful.
for that.
If you can get with our county engineer so that we can figure out how we can piece this together and pay for it. We do have to have solid numbers. We can't just say yes.
He's got it together. You have to. You've been
Thank you.
working on this a very long time. And, we've tossed numbers, we know what we're looking at.
Crystal, most of the engineers has a rough idea, but you have solid numbers when you let it out to bids. That's when you come up with solid numbers. But most of your engineers can come up with that square foot.
Yeah, they-
running foot.
They can
That's
at
the
least
way-
give us an estimate, estimated
Yeah, yeah.
engineers.
Next
yeah.
engineer can do an estimate cost, and, but you get solid numbers when you let it out for bids.
Seeing no more comments. We address number 7. Number 8, consider entrance variance application as possible action. Oh, we weren't in public hearing. We were in discussion. Alright, so consider public entrance variance application with possible action. Is that David?
So this one's located on Fulton Street, or just east of 180th Avenue. Do you guys have the application before you?
Yep.
This one's a tough one. I think it's one of those caught between a rock and hard place situations. I believe the applicant had a lot split off to the south behind the cluster of homes there. And I think that was approved at a Board of Adjustment meeting. So in a sense, it's landlocked back there, but not great access. There is one driveway they'd have to share to the east. I think that's where they're gonna probably explain their undue hardship. It would basically get rid of that whole front yard and be all driveway. So I could see a little undue hardship there. But this one is kind of out of our realm because Board of Adjustment kind of operates in their own space, and if they approve an additional lot out there and access wasn't thought of, then they become landlocked. So I'd say that's the undue hardship in this case, and they're here if they would like to speak on it. But it's usually when a parcel's landlocked, we gotta work with them to provide the best possible scenario.
And so your recommendation is the shared driveway?
They could share the driveway. On your map, it's to the east. It's 18136, but they're essentially going to be taking out that whole front yard. It'd be all gravel. I don't know if there's a closer up picture of it. But is that correct? They split a lot.
Well, when they had talked to us about getting an additional lot, it's a family situation. The sister lives out there, and they're splitting. She lives to the east of this, and then they're splitting off a lot from the mom's property. They were living with the mom and helping with the dad's care. The dad has passed away, so they're wanting to build a house on the same property as their mom. When they came in to talk to us, Carrie had mentioned to them that they would want to visit with the engineer's office to make sure they can get access. They hadn't split the lot off when they came in to talk to the Board of Adjustment, so when they came in and got the piece approved, the lot approved for the Board of Adjustment, we advertised the whole piece of property so that they could build anywhere on that, because we weren't sure about the access to that. And we were thinking they might even just do a shared drive with the mom, but, so they hadn't parceled off anything platted survey wise or anything, so that's, they are approved for one additional home in that quarter section, on their mom's property for this, so,
And I think this is,
I think they're wanting
this
to
is
kind
your
of,
sister's property, and then I think the mom's had a little bit of a blind spot,
yeah,
which is tough to see, but
And that's the 18138?
yeah, so if we put signs up, we're not
Yeah.
covering just their driveway. I think it would protect the mom's driveway.
It's the other way, 18080.
1808 is your mom.
1808.
Yeah,
Right.
18080, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and that one's also blind in one direction.
so,
So generally, I'm more okay with it when there's a cluster of homes and some of them are blind versus a sign for one person, if that makes sense. Because a lot of these driveways were approved a long time ago before we had more stringent standards, but I guess I'm more okay with it when we can protect multiple driveways in an area versus just that one applicant. The sister's driveway would work, but they'd be blowing out the entire front yard with a rock driveway. And I'm not a fan of filling an entire front yard in with rock either. But I don't think a speed zone would work out there. It's very desolate out there until you get to this cluster of homes. So I think we need 2 35 warning signs to cover that cluster.
So is it where the X circled, is that where the proposed drive is?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And they can explain further if they want.
Come on up, Youngs. How are you doing tonight?
Good, all right.
how are you?
Good.
Hi, Darren.
Hi there, how are you?
Good.
Hello.
Jesse and Joey Young. We currently live at 18080 Fulton in Carlisle. And our plans actually had drastically changed over the last couple of years since the loss of my dad. We had bought a different property, and since my mom's health was failing, things changed. So we did propose and got approved for a plot of land in between my mom and my sister, so the 18080 and the 18136 address. We didn't do anything up until this point because we just got the approval, and now we were kind of stuck because we don't have a driveway. We were taken back. I completely understand your Chapter 19 regulations, and we did not know those regulations before we picked out the spot. So we were kind of taken back when we were denied access to this driveway, because as you can see from the aerial view, there are multiple driveways on this street. We actually grew up at 18026, lived there for 30 plus years. Not once the time that my family had lived out there was there any type of driveway accidents that we are aware of. We're a tight community out there, so if there was something, we would have heard of it. But you know, growing up in the country, it's a different beast. We know that it's not the same as city life. We were trained at a very young age that when you're exiting your driveway, you're at a separate set of rules. You have to be careful. There's no stop signs, there's no warning signs. So you just be careful, and that's what we teach our kids, our nieces, our nephews, and we stay safe. So, and I appreciate the safety concern, and if we need to sign off on anything, we are happy to do so.
I hadn't even thought of the mile per hour change or a sign out there. So I'm for that anyway in that area, regardless of if we get the driveway or not. It's a really good idea,
right,
in that area, because you're right. There's 5 or 6 homes within a half, 3/4 mile there.
And Tim had come out with David, and in the Chapter 18 where it addresses the speed limit, they're running the sight distance at 55 miles an hour. We do have some people who go 55 miles an hour. Do smart people? No, we do not go 55 miles an hour on loose gravel. So,
And they proposed sharing a driveway with my wife's twin sister here at 18136, which is an option, but like he said, they have, I don't know, 8 or 10 trees they just planted within a couple of years that we would be tearing out and doing a hard 90 once we went into their driveway, hard 90 gravel, then into our proposed driveway area.
So your proposal is to do the entrance on the X?
Where that black X is,
yeah.
or close to it.
Well, I know Fulton.
Yeah,
But I can't picture in my mind exactly where this, I should have drove it. But, what I struggle with on this is, I get safety too, we've granted a few variances for driveways, and sometimes it pains me to do it, and sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. But I mean, there's so many entrances all right there. I mean, I find it just a little bit tough to swallow that this is the one that breaks the camel's back as far as, there's an entrance, 50
Yeah.
feet, 60 feet to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
I don't know, let's make it easy for them. I mean, everyone else has the exact same issue. If it's only a problem for you, but not for the other 5 driveways, that just doesn't conceptually make sense to me. So I don't have an issue. Put the drive where you need to. If we need to move the speed limits down to 35, is
Is that possible?
I don't know.
2 yellow warning signs up.
Absolutely.
sure. That probably makes all those other drives more safe too.
The ones that are blind, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna cover more than just their driveway at least.
Yeah, like I said, there'll be 5 there that.
I'm sorry to hear about your dad too.
Thank you.
Okay, what are we? Any questions for the Youngs or for our engineer? Can you live with that, David? You're okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe not the next one, but that comes before the board. This one I'm okay with. It's just, these are also case by case, so I think you might see them in the near future where I'm gonna be a harder no on it, but in this case, at least we can cover a group of homes.
Sure.
It's not just one person that has a lot of options available to them.
I think we're making it safer for all the residents on that.
Yeah.
Patch.
I like that.
You bet. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to, adopt an entrance variation application submitted by the Youngs regarding their driveway.
To approve it
To approve.
with
Do we wanna
725.
bill them for the signs like we have in the past? Is that up for that's up to you guys.
What's the cost?
It's $50, but
I'd
two
say not
signs.
to exceed 500, because there's gonna be 2 signs. But you're looking at 150 probably per sign. That's just the material, posts and the sign.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm fine to not do it. There's like 5 other driveways that are all right.
Yeah,
there,
can
too.
do we bill the rest of the people either, you know? Okay.
I mean, my take is if you,
If it just serves you.
yeah, I mean, then you
Then you
front the cost if it's helping the general neighborhood and the atmosphere.
Sounds good.
Okay, so, motion to adopt and approve of the entrance variation. And a second.
It is the, second with the speed limit
Oh.
being reduced to
Yeah.
35 miles an hour.
Will the speed limit change for that section to 35?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion passed.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Betsy. Next up on the agenda is discuss updated CICS 28E with possible action.
Yes. All right, so I have before you an updated 28E agreement for Central Iowa Community Services, which, as a reminder, is our mental health and disability services region. We do not bring all of the changes to the 28E back to all of the member counties. However, this is a significant change, and so it was the recommendation from the governing board to bring it back down to the individual counties. There was some cleanup that was done, mostly just removing dates, that kind of thing. So I won't go through all of those little changes, I'll just do more of the substantial changes and discuss those with you. The biggest change is in section 6.4. Employment of staff, and I think we discussed this in a work session where I kind of gave you guys a little bit of heads up about looking at the employment of staff for the region. It's noisy behind the screen. That's okay. All right, it is a little distracting. Okay, but anyways, so the employment of staff. Currently, we are doing letter A, which is all staff members for the region are still remaining employees of the individual member counties. So we have currently staff. So we have 15 current member counties. I believe we have staff in 10 of them currently. So what this amendment to the 28E does is adding letter B, which gives the governing board by action the ability to decide to take employment and move it to a single entity. What the board has currently been looking at is using one member county to be the employing entity. So approving this doesn't mean we go to that employment style, but it gives the governing board that option. Otherwise, without this amendment to the 28E, it couldn't even be a consideration. So that's where we're kind of at. That's the biggest piece. There was some cleanup, some changes a little bit about location of CICS offices. Pretty much what it talks about kind of there at the end of B is even if we go to another employer so that another county is the employing entity for CICS, then we'd still like to be able to use county facilities and keep our offices where they are. That way we're still ingrained with the county since we're serving the county residents. So that's it talks a little bit about that. Obviously it wouldn't be at a cost to the county. It's very clear in the 28E that cost would be an occupancy cost that the region would pay. So, which is what we're doing now. Currently, we pay rent out at our location now. We pay, it comes out of the mental health fund, a portion of it does, along with a portion of DHS pays for their portion, and then general assistance pays a small portion of that rent as well. So it really wouldn't change a lot for Warren County office. Otherwise, those are the big changes that were included. I will add one more change that was included is, like I said, all the amendments to the 28E do not have to come back to the member counties to be ratified. They did add one item that they do want specifically is noted that has to come back to the member counties, and that is the addition of any additional counties. As you may remember, we started out at 10, went to 11, and then jumped up to 15 this past year. We recognize with the changes in Senate File 619 that there may be some regional structures throughout the state changing, and that could include counties being assigned to us. Those wouldn't come back to the county if it's by act of legislation or the state requires us to. But if it's a county making application, that would then come back to the member counties. So those are the primary changes that are in front of you today.
Are there any questions for Lindsay regarding the updates, changes? I apologize, I should have moved you up in the meeting.
That's okay.
You too, Paul.
It is hot in here.
You too.
The red cheeks, where's the decorated diamond in the back? A lot of bodies in one small room, right?
I know you just want to hang out.
I don't have any questions. There's no additional cost. It makes sense to me. I appreciate the work that CICS does. I'm hopeful that the state funding works out well and serves its purpose. And I don't have any questions for you regarding this.
No question.
But I do have one while you're up here. Holidays are approaching. What's your take on the general welfare of the less fortunate in Warren County?
All right.
How are things going in your estimation?
Gosh, that's a real loaded question. So I guess I would just put out that we are taking applications for Operation Christmas. It's a community volunteer organization that does Christmas for the less fortunate. They do meals for individuals that are over 18, and then they also have a gift portion for those that have anybody under the age of 18 in the household. So we're taking applications for those, but the deadline is tomorrow. I think they can come in tomorrow and complete the application within our office.
We have quite a few people signed up.
We do. I think, so it really varied last year or the year before. It was very low. But I feel like we've seen more applications this time around. We also, Helping Hand also takes applications. So again, we are just kind of the facilitator of applications. We don't really have anything to do with the program. It's all volunteer ran. But I know a lot of the individuals are probably already accessing services at Helping Hand. So I think they've seen an increase of applications and probably a reduction from us, maybe not coming through our office as much. We still, it surprises me that we don't have as many applications. We're not funding as much rent and utility assistance as we had been in the past. It never has come back since the COVID. I think part of that is there's been an influx of funds that are available. You know, the eviction moratorium, the extension of the utility moratorium last year. So I think there's been a lot of other funding available for people. We keep waiting. At some point we know that that's going to kind of end, and then it is going to fall to us. I've been working with Crystal a little bit regarding Impact. They're the other organization within the county that does a lot of helping families that are in need. They do the LIHEAP program, which is a really big program right at this point, so that energy assistance, and it allows people to not have their utilities shut off. Their office is still closed to the public, so they don't have any access other than via phone. So we've been seeing an influx in our office of people having trouble getting that assistance. So we've been kind of working with, I reached out to Crystal, I'm like, I'm still struggling with this. How can we make sure that people can get their needs met? And so we're seeing them come into our office, and we really need to, you know, we're the funder of last resort. So if there's other programs, we're really pointing to them to that first. So just making sure that they can access that impact funds and the LIHEAP funds. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot out there. We just keep kind of trying to help people navigate that. I think that's the biggest struggle, is when people need help, they don't really know where to turn, and so where do they get into that door to navigate it? So we try to be that door when we can.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Did we approve these?
Not yet. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I will make a motion to approve the updated CICS 28E agreement.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, number 10 is consider approval of fiscal year 21 cash annual financial report with possible action.
Okay, so we have our annual financial report for fiscal year 21. I do this per Iowa Code 331-403. Basically, it's going in and submitting all of our revenues, all of the expenditures, and putting them into the categories per the Iowa Department of Management. The first page that you'll see, and I actually have some notes here that I made for you as well.
Thank you.
Yep. The first page is what will actually be published in next week's paper if you guys approve the financial report. And I did note some of the biggest places where we saw, I'll start with the revenues, where the revenues were more than what was budgeted or significantly more. And a couple of those, kind of like what Betsy mentioned, both penalties and interest and delinquent tax went up this year. The prior, I think, was probably a little bit harder to predict this year, with last year there being a moratorium at time and very little revenue in those categories. And then that lost payment, we budgeted $1.8 million. We actually received over $3 million in lost funds for fiscal year 21. Again, that one was also hard to predict because people were at home and purchasing more during the pandemic, and it's going to be another one that's probably hard to predict for this fiscal year as well. If we look down at the licenses and permits, you can see several of those are up. For all of the departments, I think most of the permits were up. Same with the charges for services. There were a couple of departments that were down, but overall there was, like recording of instruments was $157,000 more than budgeted, things like that. Use of money and property, the revenue interest was less than anticipated. And then a big chunk of what would be down for what we predicted for revenues is that we had budgeted for the 911 bond to be in fiscal year 21, and we actually have completed that in this fiscal year. So that's kind of with the revenues. We were 3.79% above overall where we had budgeted at the end of the fiscal year. And then down with expenditures, some of the things to note there. Again, what Betsy mentioned is exactly right. We saw less rent and utility payments paid than what was budgeted for. And then there were less salary expenses than budgeted in public health and nutrition. And then for roads and transportation, you can kind of see I put out the categories that had the biggest changes, like asphalt had $590,000 less in expenditures. That's the biggest one. You can see kind of down the line there. Some of the other, negative numbers are where we went over, and then the others are where we actually ended up spending less than what we expected. And then if we go down to administration, the board's salary and benefit changes were less than expected. Wellness incentives, things like that were all less than we expected. So that's why those expenditures were down. And then the Justice Center at the bottom for capital projects, we actually spent $8 million less than budgeted last year. I think this year we'll probably see some of that made up for. And then same, that 911, $2.1 million less than budgeted because those expenses just got kind of bumped into the fiscal year 22 and will end up needing to be amended for in this fiscal year. So overall for expenditures, we were about 21% less than what we had budgeted for the fiscal year. So that's kind of, that goes over the summary. This report was actually kind of fun to complete, to make everything balance out. So, yeah, so if you have any questions, otherwise we'll get it published.
I do, Megan. If you back the 911 expenditure for the tower and sort of what we were projecting on the courthouse into the next one, or if you just imputed that into this, we certainly wouldn't be 21.5% under on expenditures. Do you have a ballpark on how much? I still think we'd be under on expenditures, but I don't think it would be.
So that probably that's the bulk of it. 'Cause we were about 10 million less just in capital projects, and then overall for expenditures, we were 12 million. So
if you just took capital projects and imputed that those things actually landed in that fiscal year, we would have been 2.5 million under expenditures,
exactly.
while our revenues increased 3.7%.
And if you take the bond out of the revenues, then we're about 6% above what we had budgeted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm impressed. I think you're also, just for the public's benefit, I think you're doing a really good job. You grasped some of these concepts very quickly, and admittedly, not that I doubted you, because I didn't, but it just was a lot, and you're really a lot farther along than I sort of anticipated that you might be at this point. I'm actually not, well, maybe positive. I'm looking forward to the budget season. So,
Thank you.
well done. Do we need a motion on this?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 cash annual financial report.
Second.
And I should mention, we will have a gap, so that's with the accrued, both revenues and expenses, that we'll need a special meeting for. I'm just waiting on enough numbers from our state auditors. But as soon as I get those and I can get that report completed, we'll just have a special meeting to get that approved, but that one doesn't have to be published, so.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Budget report.
All right, so next we're back into fiscal year 22. And I have expenditures up first. Right now, I'm actually working on an amendment, so I might be reaching out to, or I will be reaching out to some department heads to discuss some of the things that the board has approved earlier in the year that have resulted in things that might need amended for. And I will be also bringing it up at the work session, but a couple of things with the expenditures. We've got about 4 departments that are running a little bit hot. The first one is the recorder's office, and I think Polly's actually going to discuss some of that later, but we've got some wages and benefits that are running slightly over budget that I'd like to keep an eye on. The 911 communication tower, it's going to need a pretty good chunk of an amendment for, but again, that's where we spent a lot less in the previous fiscal year because the expenses ended up being in the fiscal year 22, and it should be completed in fiscal year 22. And then for maintenance, there's the HVAC system costs that have been running that one up, and then our electric power is at about 47% of the budget for the year, and we're at the end of October, we were completed with about 33% of our budget. And then that building maintenance, where I mentioned the HVAC, that's sitting at about 68% of the budget is used. So that's something that we'll want to discuss at that work session next week. And then number 4, this is the same as last month. It's just a timing of when we make our insurance payments, as well as an accrued invoice that I'll keep an eye on to see if that actually runs us over budget. A couple of other updates, some things that were sitting on the other side comparison to last year that have gotten resolved since I completed this report, is that there's a substance abuse, the House of Mercy payment that has been waiting will be paid in that claims that you approved at this meeting. And then we also had a library, if you look at number 9 on the right side, that those are gonna be paid in December. So then that'll start evening out for fiscal year 11. That's all of the expenditures. Next, we have just all the fund balances. Kind of the same things to note as last month. We've got those ARPA funds in there, so that's a change. And obviously, our capital projects fund balances are going down as we would expect them to, as we do more and more work on those Justice Center and those 911 towers. And then for revenues, we've got some sitting below the 33% that were through the year. For the auditor, we've got budgeted revenue for city and school elections not received as budgeted so far. For treasurer, interest on investments are down as the balances, as we pay our bonds down, then obviously the interest that we are receiving is also down. For the sheriff, it's just the timing of the contract law enforcement payments when they were received in fiscal year 21 versus 22. Again, the DHS is just a timing of reimbursements. Conservation, we haven't received repayments yet in fiscal year 22, so it's still just a timing thing. Same with nutrition, it's just the timing of the transfer. What's different in fiscal year 21 than, or it just hasn't occurred yet. And then finally, Liberty Center sewer, it's still below where we would want at the 33%, but it has increased quite a bit. We were only at 14% in September of what we wanted to, so it is catching up to where we haven't budgeted. That's all I have for you. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
I'll make a motion to receive and file budget reports. Do we not need to?
Okay, but we can.
We're good. All right, then, number 12, regarding compensation for mileage and temporary redistricting commissioners. Setting the compensation for mileage and cost per day.
And this is just for the redistricting committee, it's working for the
Yes.
county, okay. I'll make a motion to, pay out their mileage and, salary.
At what
At what rate?
rate?
Oh, the 50 cents per mile that we pay out at the county.
And is there a payment for the day?
What did you suggest?
There was one.
Sort of a range between $25 and $50 a day.
Yeah. So it's whatever you.
Okay. I'm gonna go with 50, just because I know it's really difficult work. I think it's very taxing, so.
A motion for 50 cents a mile and $50 a day for the redistricting commissioners.
If it does go,
$50 per meeting.
yep, and if our mileage changes in January and they're still meeting, I'd like to put something in there that their mileage will also change.
Oh,
It hasn't, but in case it does.
okay.
So 50 cents per mile and $50 a day per day that they're working. I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? I'm trying to parse words, but I did hear one supervisor say $50 per meeting, one said $50 per day. In my mind, let's stack some meetings in the same day and save a little bit of money. Yeah, I think it's $50 a day.
Per meeting.
All right, a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre?
Aye.
Heater?
Aye.
DeCook?
Aye, motion carries. Mayor Hall, discuss Warren County emergency management with possible action. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. Diane Hall, I'm the mayor of Milo. I'm also the chair of Emergency Management Commission. I have with me the mayor of Carlisle, Jim Merrifield, and the mayor of Norwalk, Tom Phillips, who are also on the executive committee for the commission. And you should have a copy of the transfer dispatch to Warren County Emergency Management.
No, I didn't, so.
So in this document, it outlines the projected timeline for the transfer, starting with this month in preparation for budgets and how that would all go through here. The key elements in this are being able to prepare a budget alongside with the Board of Supervisors for that transfer to make sure that everything is covered. And so that's why we're trying to get this to either come to pass or to I guess keep it with the Sheriff's Department, which we don't feel is a good option. So if you look down a little bit farther, about half the page, October 14th, there was a Board of Supervisors work session, and some of the concerns are listed here. We think we've addressed all of those. So just briefly, I'll go through them. That the sheriff would like to be on the executive board of the commission. That is not a problem to do that. We can update the 28E and the bylaws to reflect that upon approval of the transfer. We have stopped work on the 28E agreement until we have a definite yes that this is going to move forward, because it is adding up quite quickly because we're working with an attorney to do that. So that's why that has not been done yet, but that can easily be done. There was question as to capping the levy. Right now, Emergency Management Commission currently has the authority to levy, and so the transfer would not change that. The executive committee would meet with the supervisors to discuss budgeting. Prior to that, and of course any proposed budget that would include a levy would have to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So that would be the oversight for that. The language to add line item for replacement costs, that's not a problem. We can add that to the 28 agreement as well. Metrics of standards and timeframes for achievement by dispatch. That's something that has never been part of the Sheriff's Department. So that will be part of the Emergency Communications Director's accountability. They're going to be responsible for that in the 28E agreement. It lines out the relationship with the Technical Oversight Committee and how those are determined. It's in Section 4C. If you'd like to see a copy of it, I do have a copy of the 28E agreement if you don't have one from the last time we got together. But those actual metrics we do not feel belong in the 28E. And then if those metrics, the other concern, if the metrics cannot be met within the allotted time frame, there was wanting to be an easy termination clause. We feel that the Emergency Communications Director is to be held accountable for performance of dispatch, as are all employees, and concerns about that performance, if there is any, would be brought to the Chair of Emergency Management Commission and be addressed accordingly. And if dispatch performance is not meeting standards, dispatch could revert to the Sheriff's Department if the Sheriff can provide an action plan to the Board of Supervisors that they believe will actually accomplish those goals. Another concern is acquiring other dispatch centers for revenue. That has been a goal of emergency management since the inception of the new communication system, and so that will be pursued once the system is all up and running and everything is smooth and we have a good product to take to other counties. The Sheriff had once discussed not signing the NCIC agreement. He was in our meeting on Tuesday with the Emergency Management Commission. He said that he did not express that was not going to happen, but if he would, then Emergency Management Commission would just secure another 24/7 law enforcement agency to perform that function. And then liability, that is taken care of. Emergency Management Commission is a governing body which has liability insurance through ICAP. So does anyone have any questions about that? Concerns that were raised earlier and any possible things to that?
I don't, other than I didn't have a litany of concerns earlier on the 14th. I had maybe one, and that is regarding funding. Walk me through that a little bit, if you with.
Sure, sure.
I understand that EMC currently has the ability to levy,
Correct.
but it's at a much smaller scale than what a proposal would be if dispatch were to move over there. What sort of safeguards do I have to assuage my concerns?
The Board of Supervisors has to approve our budget.
You do, and we have historically done so. I'm just saying if there's a large increase, at that point, what's the board's recourse? If I don't like the direction or if you should look at the
Absolutely.
direction. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, Tom Phillips, Mayor of Norwalk. I'd like to remind supervisors that the EMC, the commission is a body that is formed of elected officials throughout the county. They are not going to do anything. I don't believe that that board would do anything to overly expand a budget because they're accountable to their taxpayers as you are to the county. So I get what you're saying, and I understand your concern as far as inflating a budget. I don't think that will happen because of the makeup of the commission, because those people are the commission members are accountable to their constituents. And the other reason for not necessarily putting an artificial cap on the budget is you don't know what emergencies are going to occur that are going to be needed to have a larger increase in the budget.
Sorry.
I mean, we are the 4th largest county, in the state, so we just feel that this is a great. I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, really? I just talked to Rachel at Economic Development yesterday about it. She said we're the 4th largest county and the 4th wealthiest county.
We're the 4th largest growth. Our growth rate is the 4th largest in the state.
Is that what I misunderstand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I think we're only behind Dallas as far as we're in top 5 for sure in affluence. I think there's only a couple ahead of us. So it's going well.
So I respectfully ask the board to approve the transfer of dispatch to Emergency Management Commission. If not tonight, then before mid-December, so we can work on budgeting alongside. This is a collaborative effort. We are all in the spirit of making sure that this is a win for everyone. It's for the citizens, for all the departments, for all the users, and we want to make sure that it's going to work right. So that's the spirit that Emergency Management Commission has taken on this, and we can see it being successful. Thank you.
And thank you, mayors, for coming out and supporting that too. I think that's it's impactful to me. I'm not going to take action on it tonight because this is literally the first I've laid my eyes on this. But I will. I'm very happy to have an additional work session set, and all of those will be with possible actions. So we'll see if we can get something ironed out, preferably before December. So I mean, I'll bring it back up as well, but I won't do it today. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Number 14 tonight is consider recorder's office staffing updates, part-time to full-time with salary increase and staff replacement in 2022.
I give you worksheets, which probably made no sense. And so that's just kind of, I'm sharing my presentation with you, so you've got the numbers in front of you. The worksheets kind of represent the increase. Each June is, I did June 19, 20, and 21. The first line where it says deeds on the left-hand side, the large number is the total of the deeds, mortgages, releases, any of the documents filed. And then clear over to the right where it says e-submissions down at the bottom. That is also documents filed. That has really, it has doubled since 18. And then of course our total deposits, you can see, have increased over the last 3 years. And the last spreadsheet is August of this year, which I kind of want to compare apples to apples, but I did want you to see one of the most recent. And the e-subs are still climbing, and so are our deposits, which explains why our revenue is increased by $150,000.
Oh, Polly, you know what to say.
Thank you, Megan.
I saw the big grin back there, and I'm like, oh, here comes the ass.
Here it comes. So anyway, and we have had ATV renewals this fall. We've had 1,300 of them. We try to email what we can, but we still had to mail out 550 postcards, which cost money, but we do get a little of that back with writing fees from the renewals. Boat renewals are due April. It's a 3-year renewal. We will be sending or emailing 3695 renewal notices, and we had 3,100 3 years ago. So our numbers are increasing. Boat owners are keeping us busy. We've recorded 20 new subdivisions this year. I know there's another one coming in this week. So deeds are only going to increase. Yeah, oh, Lindsay, she's helping me out here. So deeds are only going to, documents are only going to be increasing. I have 2 full-time employees, Teresa Finken. She's going to be retiring in April. And Sharon Wiley, she came to us in August. Then I have Bonnie Graham, which is part-time at 32 hours a week. I would ask if I could get someone hired for Teresa in January. She's going to take a lot of knowledge and a lot, there's going to be a lot of workload with her gone. And we're all training, or I mean, we all know how to do everything, but we're just slower at it than Teresa is. But we're getting there. I want to get this all set up before she goes. She is my first deputy. She receives 82% of my salary. I have an experienced person in-house who is interested in this job, but we would need her starting salary at probably $22 an hour. That is less than what Teresa's making. She's making $29 an hour. So,
one question. When you say in-house, another department, I don't want to know the name.
Yeah, and I'm not
later off the record or whatever, but another department in Warren County.
Yes.
Have you spoken with that department head?
No, not yet, because I want to see how this would go. Okay. Debbie Graham.
I only ask because, you know, sometimes people get fired up when we play musical chairs.
I know.
And then it builds bad feelings, and
I know.
I get to referee it, which is not my favorite thing to do.
I know. But I mean, that's happened
I know.
a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
Good for the news.
Yeah. Debbie Graham was my second deputy, and she left December of 2020. So I have not, she was getting 70% of my salary. So I have not assigned anyone as second deputy. I didn't feel that was necessary. So I've cut costs there. I did give up a full-time person for a part-time person in 2019. With the increase of the work and a lot of wisdom walking out the door, I would like to have my full-time person back. My part-time person does have insurance, so it's not a whole lot of difference. But with that said, I would like the part-time person's salary to increase. I don't have a figure.
What are they currently being paid?
They are, I think she's earning $18.50 now an hour.
And did you have a proposal?
I don't have a figure for that. I was thinking $19.50 an hour. I'm just throwing that out.
Is she doing a good job for you?
Yes
Okay.
and no.
Okay.
She is.
You're happy and you're advocating for a raise for her, so I assume that it's officially
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't intend to assign any deputies because that's gonna be the job of the recorder when the new one comes in 2023.
So in summary, the ask is to have one part-time go to full-time with a wage increase of maybe an approximate amount of $1.
Yeah.
75 cents to $1 and 8 hours additional a week.
Mhm.
And then replace Teresa when she retires after 31 years of service
Mhm.
in January.
In January, just so we got a little better control. I did give you guys another sheet there of what it takes to file a document. And I know people come in and think we aren't busy because we don't have lines and our office is not full, but just read that little document there. It takes 2 days to take care of one document. And and also on these spreadsheets under the management fee, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7th column, that is our documents per day. So in August, we had 1329 documents for the month. So it takes time, and we're not ones to chit chat. We have work to do, and we get it done. But I could sure use some help.
Got it.
So there you go.
Well, I think it's my opinion that our recorder's laid out a pretty reasonable and easy to follow, logical rationale for why they need an additional 8 hours. And clearly, when Teresa retires, she needs to be replaced.
Mhm.
There probably will be a drop off because there's some institutional knowledge that will be departing in a very well earned retirement. I really do think that's very commendable to stay with the
Yeah.
county for 31 years. I wish her nothing but the best, and I thank her for her work. So my point is, I don't have an issue at all. Also, in large part because your revenue's up substantially because you actually have more documents to do,
That's
which
right.
also logically flows with why you need some additional help. So I'm supportive. I don't know as though we need a resolution on that, other than maybe we do. Do we not? I don't know that we do.
You will. You may want to discuss this in a work session
Yeah.
for a little bit and
Okay.
come up with exactly what you want to do.
Okay.
So Polly has a chance to put together everything that you need.
I just really appreciate your documentation and your numbers and your presentation. It's really well done. It just
Well, thank you.
lays the path for the decision to get you some more help. So
Thank you.
I'd be told also support.
Gotta see numbers if you,
Yeah.
I can
These
tell you we're
numbers speak
busy,
for
but
themselves.
if you don't see the numbers, it's.
Well, I will add this just for the other department heads too, because it is easier to be the treasurer or the recorder and document increased revenues and that. I mean, I get that. I get it. It's like David's office can't exactly say, well, I need 3 more graders but the revenue's not. I mean,
Yeah.
it's apples to oranges. I do get that, but I am appreciative how you laid it out. I'm just saying for the other department heads that if you're genuinely in need of some help, I'm happy to hear it out. It doesn't mean to do it, but I'm happy to hear it out. If it makes sense. We'll see you back at a work session. Sorry for,
Okay,
for
thank you.
keeping you so long.
Well, I kept you too, so, thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, these were the receive and file reports. Okay. I was trying to jump ahead to 15. Do we have a motion to receive and file reports from the General Assistance and Recorder's Office?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Supervisors report. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. Okay, activity and meetings, so not necessarily in chronological order. Met with the engineer to discuss budget and roads. Also attended the S23 Bridgeport today. That went very well, and great weather. Met with conservation to discuss budget items and ARPA funds. Met with zoning director to clarify issues and report on current cases. Met with nutrition director to sign documents for grant and update on program. Toured the courthouse and jail with Jamie, John, and Tom. Took a tour of projects and developments throughout Warren County with the engineer and assistant engineer. Went with the 911 director for updates on finalizing radio project. Attended the Warren County Emergency Agency and Commission meeting. Met with EMA coordinator. Met with the executive board for the Emergency Management Commission. That's my report.
Thank you, Chris. Supervisor Heater.
I just wanted to, let everybody know, but the board as well, that our furniture rolls were delivered this week, but it wasn't without a lot of, anxiety. The truck came into, the job site on Wednesday as scheduled, and they were unable to unload. The job, for whatever reason, with the weather and the carpeting getting, the glue under getting cured, there was really just no place to put the furniture walls. We had to go up through a second window. It was really, quite a process. They had to get the biggest lift on the job site, and they had that all ready to go, but it didn't work out. So they had to take all the furniture walls back to their Des Moines warehouse and put them in and sort them out, and then, rent a couple additional trucks. We had 2 days to get them in. Otherwise, Absolute Concrete was doing concrete on the access point where we were coming in with the furniture walls this Monday. So we had a 2-day window to bring 23 huge crates down, 7 loads, and get them all installed. But Story Kenmore came through in the clutch, and they got it all done. They worked overtime, worked in the evenings. They worked all night Thursday night, getting things loaded up, and so
That was Stony Kenworthy.
Story Kenworthy. So it was just impressive. It's really nice to have talented people, good people, and business. Just their passion for what they do and their dedication to getting the job done was just phenomenal to watch them perform. So I've been on vacation the last 12 days, so I don't have much beyond that. Did attend a few Zoom calls and meetings, but not much to really mention.
Thank you much. Mine, I'll deviate from the script a little bit. I had, I'll just talk about things that I found really interesting, and then I'll ask a couple things. I met with the Norwalk City Council, their mayor, and a delegation from Kosovo prior to the board meeting, the council meeting recently. Absolutely riveting folks. And when Kosovo brings some of their diplomats to Norwalk, that's our sister state, and then we've got a sister city for Norwalk. When they bring their diplomats here, these are not like people at my level. Like, I'm a board of supervisor member of a 50,000 person. These are like the Department of the Interior secretary. I mean, it's like the people make like huge impacts in Kosovo. I was soaking it up. It was quite interesting. I had a meeting with, this will be coming, and I didn't speak for the board, I spoke for one person. But I did meet with a representative from the Des Moines Airport, contribution in some capacity from Warren County between the county and the cities of all of the contiguous counties to Polk and Polk County regarding an airport terminal expansion for partial use of some ARPA funds. They want to leverage dollars from the state. I think the governor has indicated that she's willing to put in a large chunk of money. Polk County or Des Moines is going to put in a very substantial amount of money. Polk and the other ones are getting asked to do a small amount of cost share that then would be leveraged out about 10 times to build a very expansive terminal and increase access for the airport. So I don't know if I committed us to this. I committed us to having a meeting at some point, probably in January, with Indianola, Norwalk, the county, and Carlisle. I think we'll do a joint meeting. They can make their pitch. You all can make your determination. But you know, a lot of people use the airport. He was going through some numbers of who uses the airport, and towns, because they can run it on credit cards. Everyone has to use a credit card for everything, so they can see from where people come. And there's a lot of folks from Indianola, Carlisle, Norwalk, and all over the county, all over the state. And then oddly, there's a lot of income that flows through the Des Moines Airport that is from out of state too. I suppose businesses are coming there, but there's some economic impact. So I don't know. We'll see. Did some email catch up. Lots of meeting with some staff and department heads on a number of different topics. Sometimes on our agenda you see lots of things, and other times there's lots of other. For everything you see on the agenda, there's usually 2 or 3 other things that are, being worked on, being considered. So we were working through some of those things. Continuing to move the needle a little bit on some ARPA funds. I think that we started ramping that up. I did look at some of the language on when funds need to be spent, and there's lots of time, but I do think that we start with the home team first.
I have that application ready, I just need to put it on the next board meeting.
Yeah, so we're gonna start moving that forward. I think that off the cuff, I really like fiber for conservation and assisting with the shop site. I think some of those things are very, very important to me. I think there are monies that we're going to be spending in any hour in any event, and so there's some things coming. Did meet with the city administrator of Norwalk on another idea. I think at some point Norwalk will be pitching a joint project on the industrial area, light industrial, commercial. I think they might be looking for some seaward assist. And then what I said earlier about Greenfield Plaza, I genuinely mean it. I really do want David, and I'm happy to do it. I'll be here tomorrow at 9, but I'm not saying we do it then, but I really am happy to look at that. I still want an opinion from legal on it, but I think that we start looking at some things, because if you look at the budget, there were some funds there that we need to do some good with it, and hopefully have some payoff from it. But also, I understand that not everything's going to have a return, and I get that. But I want to see what we can do. Thanks again to the auditor's office for doing the work on the most recent election. Really is a lot of work to run those elections, and so I thank Tracy and her staff for that. I also want to thank all the people that ran for city council, for mayor, for school boards, for various other trustee or board positions. Whether you won or you lost, I'm thankful that you engaged. I think that's very important. So thank you for stepping up, and congratulations to the winners. people will be getting sworn in, I suppose, in early January too. And that'll change some things, so we'll have some different, different personalities, and I look forward to working with, everyone that we work with.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And that will conclude my remarks. Number 17 on the agenda is public input. Ooh, bring back, I got one last thing. I did, yesterday I made it Facebook official. I think that's what the young people say when they're in a relationship, and it reaches a level of seriousness that they call it Facebook official. So yesterday I did announce that in 2022 I will not be running for this Warren County Supervisor seat, but it has been an honor to serve, and I do look forward to the next 13 months to continue finishing up some big projects that we have and to try to do so prudently. But, and the reason that I made that announcement yesterday, and I'm saying it again today, is not because that's some big deal, it's not. But it is because when I looked on the Secretary of State's website, it looks like nomination papers are March 7 through 29. So I would just, my one piece of advice for someone who might want to be a supervisor, being on the ballot would be greatly helpful for you in actually becoming a supervisor. So nomination papers are in March, and I figured that would give folks some time over the holidays, and then January and February if they wanted to think that over. So I think it's official. Now we're on for public. Seeing none in the room, do we have anyone online?
No.
Okay. Our next meeting date will be December 7, 2021 at 9:30 in the morning. Thank you all for your time.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Roll call, please.
McIntyre.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. We are adjourned.